My wife got back in shape and decided she could do better than me, so she filed for divorce, but quickly regretted it. A 38M, just a regular guy working as an IT tech for a local company, never imagined the day my wife would walk into the kitchen and casually announce she was done with our marriage. We'd been together for almost 10 years, married for 7. Our life was simple yet comfortable, and I believed we were happy. Routine dinners, shared chores, the occasional date night, it was far from glamorous, but it worked for us. Or so I thought. Things started to shift about a year ago when my wife joined a fancy new gym downtown. At first, I fully supported her. She was excited about her new fitness journey, and I was proud to see her so motivated. She embraced a strict diet and signed up for personal training sessions. Over time, she started shedding weight and toning her muscles, and I could see her confidence growing. She started dressing differently, wearing designer clothes that flattered her figure, and spending more time at the gym than at home. I didn't think much of it. I figured it was her way of feeling better about herself. However, her newfound confidence came with a price. She began making snide remarks about me, my job, and even my appearance. "You know, not everyone settles so young," she'd say. Or, "I could have done so much better if I'd only focused on myself earlier." I tried to ignore these comments, telling myself she was just caught up in her transformation. But it became harder to brush off the growing tension between us. Then one morning, she walked into the kitchen, smoothie in hand, and dropped the bombshell. "I'm not happy," she said bluntly. "I think I need to explore other options." I stared at her, stunned. She elaborated, her tone cold and detached. "I've outgrown this marriage. Look at me now. I have a whole world of opportunities, and I'm stuck with you." I felt a mixture of anger, hurt, and disbelief. The woman I had supported and loved for years was acting as if our marriage was just a stepping stone for her to upgrade her life. Despite my emotions, I kept my composure. "If that's what you want," I said quietly, "then do what you must." Within days, I received official notice from her lawyer. She wanted a quick divorce and a generous settlement. She demanded the house, a significant portion of my savings, and spousal support, even though she had a stable, full-time job and earned a decent salary. My lawyer explained the basics of our no-fault state. She could walk away, but her demands were far from reasonable. "She's trying to leverage her new confidence to squeeze you dry," he warned. I nodded grimly. That's when I decided I wouldn't roll over. If she thought she could discard me and profit from it, she was sorely mistaken. Fight begins. We entered mediation a few weeks later. She arrived dressed to impress, tossing her newly styled hair and exuding smug confidence. Her remarks were dripping with disdain. "Maybe you should start hitting the gym," she said at one point. I stayed calm, refusing to rise to her provocations. Mediation ended without an agreement, as her demands remained outrageous. She left fuming, muttering about getting the judge on her side. In private, I began gathering evidence. I documented our finances, collected bank statements, and even saved text messages where she bragged to her friends about upgrading her life. My lawyer advised me to stay composed and focus on presenting the facts. "The judge will see through her entitlement," he assured me. Meanwhile, her behavior grew increasingly hostile. She stopped by the house, still shared property, to pick up belongings, but left behind mocking notes, criticizing everything from my job to the way I kept the place tidy. She flaunted her new relationship with a gym coworker, parading him around town where mutual friends could see. I heard through the grapevine that she was already planning her future with him, assuming she'd walk away with a significant financial windfall from me. The courtroom drum. When our case finally went to court, her confidence seemed unshaken. She wore an expensive outfit and carried herself like someone who had already won. Her lawyer presented her demands with a straight face, painting her as a victim who had sacrificed her prime years to support me. I couldn't believe the audacity, but my lawyer was prepared. He presented clear evidence showing that her financial situation was stable and that her claims of sacrifice were exaggerated. The text messages she had sent to her friends bragging about leaving me for greener pastures were the nail in the coffin. The judge's expression shifted as the messages were read aloud, her smirk fading with each line. The judge ruled that the house would be sold and the proceeds split fairly. She was denied spousal support and only received a fraction of my savings. Her entitled demands had backfired spectacularly. After the dust settled, she tried reaching out. At first, it was through mutual friends. Then, she started sending texts. "I made a mistake," one read. Another said, "Can we talk?" I ignored them. My life was finally moving forward, and I had no intention of looking back. I heard from friends that her relationship with the gym coworker fizzled out within months. She had underestimated the financial toll of her lifestyle and overestimated the allure of her newfound freedom. Meanwhile, I was thriving. I started hitting the gym myself, not to win her back, but to focus on my health. I reconnected with old friends, and for the first time in years, I felt truly confident. Today, I'm in a much better place. I've met someone new, someone who values me for who I am, not what I can provide. Looking back, my ex-wife's actions were a blessing in disguise. She taught me to prioritize myself and recognize my own worth. As for her, the last I heard, she was still trying to piece her life together. Her regret is her burden to bear. And me? I'm just grateful she showed her true colors before I wasted any more of my life on someone who couldn't see my value. Courtroom. When the court date finally arrived, I felt a mix of nerves and determination coursing through me. It was a pivotal moment, one that would decide not only my future, but also the vindication of my character. As I entered the courtroom, I caught sight of her seated on the opposite side of the room. She exuded an air of confidence, her posture impeccable, and her designer attire a clear reminder of the lifestyle she had embraced so readily. Her lawyer started with an opening argument designed to pull at heartstrings. He painted her as a victim, trapped in a stifling marriage, claiming that she had no choice but to seek compensation to move forward with her life. He described me as complacent, an unambitious man who had failed to support her aspirations. According to him, my lack of drive had held her back from achieving her full potential. The narrative stung, but I held my composure. I had spent sleepless nights preparing for this, gathering every piece of evidence that spoke the truth. This wasn't just about money or property. It was about setting the record straight. When her lawyer finally concluded, my own lawyer rose to deliver our side of the story. Piece by piece, he dismantled her carefully constructed narrative. Financial documents were presented, showing her stable income, which far exceeded mine. He highlighted her extravagant spending habits, pointing to the thousands of dollars she had charged to our joint credit line for luxury items and personal indulgences. Then came the bombshell, copies of her mocking notes and messages. The judge's expression grew more serious with each revelation. My lawyer's voice remained calm and measured, but the impact of his words was undeniable. When he began questioning her under oath, the cracks in her story started to show. "Did my client ever stop you from going to the gym?" he asked. She hesitated before answering. "No." "Did he ever hinder your career in any way?" Again, she replied, "No." My lawyer then introduced old emails and text messages where she had praised my unwavering support and stability. These messages stood in stark contrast to her claims in court. The discrepancies were glaring, and the tension in the room became palpable. But the most damning evidence came in the form of text messages she had sent to a friend. The judge's tone sharpened as he read them aloud. "I'm finally hot enough to get a real catch. Going to dump him and upgrade," one message read. The friend's reply, "Careful, he might not go down without a fight," drew a murmur from the courtroom. Her face turned pale as the implications of her words sank in. When questioned about the messages, she dismissed them as mere venting, but the judge's skeptical expression suggested otherwise. Her confident facade was unraveling before everyone's eyes. When the judge finally delivered the verdict, it was a moment of quiet triumph. Her entitlement and manipulation had backfired spectacularly. The house would be split equitably, with no spousal support awarded. Additionally, she was ordered to reimburse me for the disputed credit card charges. The judge didn't hold back in admonishing her, pointing out that her attempts to exploit the divorce process were both unethical and unacceptable. As the gavel struck, a sense of relief washed over me. Justice had been served, and for the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of hope for the future. Outside the courtroom, she approached me, tears streaming down her face. "I made a mistake," she admitted, her voice trembling. "I was caught up in my new lifestyle. We can still talk, right? Maybe we don't have to go through with all this." I looked at her calmly, feeling an odd mixture of pity and closure. "You filed for divorce," I reminded her. "You said you could do better. Now the judge has made it clear you won't profit from this." She reached for my hand, but I stepped back, keeping my resolve. "What's done is done," I said firmly. "You showed me who you are when you thought you were on top," she pleaded, her voice rising in desperation. She offered to drop the divorce, to work on things, to go back to the way things were. But I shook my head. "I'm not interested," I replied. "You wanted an upgrade, and now you're left with nothing." And in the weeks that followed, the final paperwork was completed, and she moved her belongings out of the house. I decided to sell the property, a place that had once symbolized the life we built together, but now felt like a monument to betrayal. The equity from the sale gave me a fresh start, and I began searching for a smaller, cozier home closer to the city. Mutual friends couldn't resist sharing updates about her life. Apparently, her new boyfriend had disappeared as soon as he realized she wasn't bringing in the financial windfall he had expected. She was left alone, grappling with the bitter realization that her arrogance and entitlement had cost her everything. As for me, I chose not to dwell on the past. I focused on rebuilding my life, rediscovering parts of myself that had been overshadowed during the marriage. I threw myself into my work, finding new challenges and opportunities that reignited my passion. I also took up hobbies I had long neglected, like hiking and photography, finding solace in the quiet beauty of nature. The experience taught me a profound lesson. Not all transformations are positive. My wife may have improved her physique, but in doing so, she lost her moral compass. She saw me as disposable, a stepping stone to a better life, but I refused to be exploited. The irony of her downfall wasn't lost on me. Her quest for an upgrade had left her with nothing, while I emerged from the ordeal with my dignity and self-respect intact. Actions have consequences, and hers were a testament to the dangers of greed and arrogance. One evening, as I unpacked boxes in my new home, I stumbled upon an old photo album. Flipping through its pages, I saw snapshots of happier times, moments that once held so much promise. I felt a pang of sadness, but also a sense of closure. Those memories were a part of my past, but they didn't define my future. A few months later, I met someone new. She was kind, grounded, and refreshingly genuine. Our conversations flowed effortlessly, and for the first time in years, I felt a spark of hope for what lay ahead. It wasn't about replacing what I'd lost, but about building something new, something real. Looking back, I realized that the courtroom battle was more than just a legal fight. It was a battle for my self-worth and the right to move forward unburdened. My ex-wife's betrayal had been a painful wake-up call, but it also opened the door to a brighter, quieter future. One where I was valued for who I am, not discarded for who I'm not. In the end, her attempt to upgrade came crashing down. And as for me, I walked away with more than just a fair settlement. I walked away with my peace of mind. That, I realized, was the greatest victory of all.